India and Canada have agreed to designate new high commissioners for the first time since 2023, when Canada accused the Indian government of orchestrating killing of Khalistani activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar, with a view to returning to regular services to citizens and businesses in both countries. Prime Minister Modi and Canadian Prime Minister Modi-Carney held bilateral discussions on the margins of the G7 Leaders Summit in Kananaskis. A statement issued by the Office of the Canadian Prime Minister said that Carney and Modi reaffirmed the importance of Canada-India ties based upon mutual respect, the rule of law, and a commitment to the principle of sovereignty and territorial integrity. Take a listen.
In your meeting with Prime Minister Modi, I wanted to ask you, what did you say to him about the murder of Canadian Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar?
We have had a discussion, the Prime Minister and I, about the importance of having the law enforcement to law enforcement dialogue, which is not just dialogue, cooperation directly, the importance of addressing transnational repression, as I noted, including when we met, obviously, there is a judicial process that's underway, and I need to be careful about further commentary.
The two leaders also discussed strong and historic ties between the people, partnerships in the Indo-Pacific, and significant commercial links between Canada and India, including partnerships in economic growth, supply chains, and energy transformation. Take a listen.
In terms of the bilateral relationship, which is your question, I think the meeting today was important, but I would describe it as foundational, as a necessary first step, an exchange of views, frank, open exchange of views around law enforcement, transnational repression as two examples, an agreement to provide the necessary foundations to begin to rebuild a relationship based on mutual respect, sovereignty, trust, and that begins with what was agreed. You asked for concrete, which is that we will move to appoint high commissioners again. And let me just finish by putting that in context, which is there are very deep ties of people and businesses between Canada and India. It's well known. It's part of your point about where the relationship could go. And they are not served at present by consular services, in effect, certainly by high commissioners. And it's necessary to have that level of service as a basis on which to build out, again, in the context of respect for sovereignty and to begin to realize the potential of the relationship. And we will, we're both committed to work towards that, but there's a lot of work that will need to be done.
भारत और कनाडा के संबंध अनेक प्रकार से बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है। कनाडा की अनेक कंपनियों का भारत में निवेश है। भारत के लोगों का भी कनाडा की धरती पर बहुत बड़ा निवेश है। लोकतांत्रिक मूल्यों को समर्पित कनाडा और भारत मिलकर के लोकतंत्र को मजबूत करना होगा, मानवता को मजबूत करना होगा, हमारे रिसोर्सेज का ऑप्टिमम यूटिलाइजेशन कर करके मानव जात के कल्याण के काम में कैसे ला सकते हैं, उस दिशा में हम प्रयास करते रहेंगे। और मुझे विश्वास है कि प्रधानमंत्री जी के चुनाव के बाद मुझे पहली बार मिलने का मौका मिला है, तो इस चुनाव के भव्य विजय के लिए भी मैं उनको बधाई देता हूं और आने वाले कालखंड में उनके साथ भारत और कनाडा मिलकर के अनेक क्षेत्रों में प्रगति करेंगे।
All right, let me quickly go across to my colleague Aditya Rajkol, Senior Executive Editor, National Security and Strategic Affairs of TV9 Network. Aditya, very good morning to you. This could mark a major thaw in what has been a very strained India-Canada relationship. We've seen, India-Canada ties hit a low under Justin Trudeau, especially after the Nijjar killing. How significant is this move to appoint new high commissioners after almost 2 years, Aditya?
Well, good morning, Neha. Certainly a very big development coming in with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his counterpart, Modi-Carney, actually meeting and deciding to stabilize the ties between India and Canada. This comes at a time when the G7 summit was underway in Canada, and of course on the sidelines they met. This was a very crucial meeting because for last couple of years there have been rickety ties between India and Canada, especially under Justin Trudeau, who wasn't able to stabilize or take any action against groups who were working against the national security of India. On several times, India had shared dossiers against Khalistani terror groups who were getting freedom to operate and shelter on Canadian soil. But now it does seem that there is some consensus that has been achieved between India and Canada. Also, there are age-old people-to-people ties and historic connect between India and Canada, and that's what will be taken forward. A major development in this regard is, of course, India and Canada deciding to yet again appoint high commissioners. You would remember after the 2023 G20 summit, the relations between India and Canada had sunken to a new low. And, of course, both the countries have decided to remove their high commissioners and reduce the diplomatic staff as well. Apart from that, several other measures were taken. And now the high commissioners would be appointed. That would be a significant beginning. We heard Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri also talk about the stability between India and Canada that has been achieved now. And little steps, small diplomatic steps will be taken in order to go to the same pre-2023 formula of India-Canada ties. So Prime Minister's visit to Canada in Calgary for the G7 summit seems to have impacted the relationship in a positive manner. And it does seem over the next few weeks and months, significant progress will be made between India and Canada. And perhaps a trade deal could be also achieved at least the negotiations could begin between the two countries.
Right, and also, Aditya, the joint statement mentions mutual respect, rule of law and sovereignty, clearly addressing the very issues that triggered tensions earlier. Is this a diplomatic way of signaling that both sides want to move past the controversies?
That's right. India at least wants to move past that controversy, but India also wants significant action against, gangsters or terrorists who are operating from the Canadian soil and trying to, conduct terror attacks or killings or even instigate violence on the Indian soil. So this is a very significant, statement that's come in from India as well as Canada after the meeting between the two countries. They speak about shared interests. They speak about mutual respect. They also speak about stability. But the stability will only increase when Canada decides to take significant action against the Khalistani terrorists on their soil. Recently, it was the 40th anniversary of the Kanishka bombing that has happened on the Air India flight, in which significant amount of Canadian nationals had died. But till now, justice eludes them. There hasn't been any kind of justice to the terror victims of the Kanishka bombing that was hatched by Khalistani Canadians on Canadian soil. So if there are little steps that are taken by Canada, India will certainly reciprocate, and there could be strengthening of the ties that could really happen. And that would certainly signify that mutual respect is not only in a statement, but has been reflected on ground. So Modi-Carney seems to be positive, much different from how Justin Trudeau had operated. And India does hope that under the leadership of Modi-Carney, there will be a significant course correction done by Canadian politicians and Canadian government, which was missing during Justin Trudeau's rule.